Have you ever bought a piece of furniture, you get it home, you open the box, you're so excited, and it's in like a million pieces because you have to assemble it, and you get out the instructions are like, it's like a Harry Potter book, and it's in 50 different languages, and you try to find yours, and even the language translation is kind of horrible. Oh. But you know who's not like that? IKEA. I put together about 35 pieces of IKEA furniture, and they've solved the problem of instructions for putting together furniture. And it reminds me of data serialization languages. It reminds me of YAML. It reminds me of JSON and XML. Now, IKEA isn't in JSON. But you know what they do? Let me show you. They've taken their instruction manuals, and they don't really use any words at all, except for the name, which I can't pronounce. Bias, I don't know. But they found a way to universally describe how to put together things. All we have is this smiling or frowning guy showing you a screwdriver and saying, screw this in. There's no words in here. It's a universal language that whether you speak Japanese, English, French, or whatever, you can follow this instruction booklet. It's amazing, really. And that, to me, just screams data serialization languages. So there's the official definition. So just like the Swedish company IKEA put together instructions on how to put together really any piece of furniture in a universal language that anybody can understand, including American me knowing only English, our applications, our programs need a way to interact with other applications or programs and transfer data, variables and such, in a universal way. And that's what data serialization languages do for us. So for example, I might be coding something in Java, and I want to share information with another app that might be coding in Python, or coded in Python. The way I would store information and talk about my information in Java over here in my own app would be very different from how George over here, let's just say George is programming over here, would be very different than how George would do it in his Python app. So I need a way to communicate things that I'm working with to George. So I may have some router information, some router info in Java. I would use a data serialization language and put it into something nice and neat that he can understand. Maybe some beautiful JSON. Our universal language. And George can take that information, digest it, and implement it, and build his IKEA furniture on the other side. Okay, so this gives us an idea of what a data serialization language is, but which one do we pick? And where would we use each one? Or can we just stick with one for everything? Let's talk about that. Well, first look at XML, the Extensible Markup Language. This is mainly used for websites. It does try to be human readable, and I say try because it does an okay job, but it's not great. Now, it's called markup language because in the code, in the language, it includes extra details of like how to format the text, like, font, color, size. Let me show it to you real quick. This is the same information we talked about in the previous nugget when we kind of did programming primer. This is all the information about 3 trainers, myself, Jeremy Chara, and Keith Barker. Here it is in XML format. Notice, as a human, we can pretty much read this, but it's not that pretty. A key thing with XML is notice we have name, and then closing it out, we have that /. That's a key staple of XML, right? So we have the same thing over here, have the same thing for age, we have the opening bracket, for whatever you want to say, like opening ice cream. Put our data in there, vanilla, and then close it out with / ice cream. Dunskies. We're now at my good old buddy JSON, or JSON, however you like to say it. Stands for JavaScript Object Notation. As the name might tip you off, it is heavily used with JavaScript. But you will see us using it and the network automation world at large using it pretty frequently with APIs. Why do we use it with APIs? Well, 2 big reasons. First, it is more human readable than XML. It's debatable, but I think it is. But the other reason is that it's also computer readable. It's like a hybrid. It's like the best of both worlds. It strikes a great balance. We can read it pretty easily, and computers can parse it like you wouldn't believe. They love it. So we use it in our APIs. It's one of the big reasons why you'll see it on the current CCNA exam. You got to know it. Here is the structure of JSON with that same data we use to look at XML. We aren't going to talk about it too much here because we'll talk about it a lot in a moment. But this is how it looks, just for comparison. Now we're on to YAML, and it's one of my favorite acronyms ever. YAML ain't markup language. So as opposed to XML, it's going to be more simple. It's not going to talk about the size and font of characters. It's not markup language. Well, it ain't markup language. YAML is a fan favorite of scripting languages like Python and Perl. And I know what you're thinking. Don't we use Python a ton in network automation? Yeah, so wouldn't it make sense to use YAML? Yeah, and we do. We use it mostly with Ansible Ansible is a very popular network automation tool we'll talk about here in a moment, but just know that we'll use YAML a lot with it. So much so that I like to refer to it as Yansible. That's how I kind of remember that YAML is used with Ansible. You got it, Yansible. Now a huge highlight, a big love with YAML is that it's crazy human readable because it's pretty. One of the reasons being that, similar to Python, how Python will use white space, YAML does the same thing. Check it out. Using that same example as before, here's that same data in YAML. Notice it's crazy readable for us. And we have use of the white space. Look at all that white space. The white space does determine how the data is organized, so you can't just remove it. It's essential. But man, is it pretty. And here is your wide-angle view, your bird's-eye view of that same data set we're looking at. And it's JSON, YAML, and XML. So in this nugget, we looked at data serialization languages. A mouthful just to describe what IKEA does every day, creating a set of instructions that no matter where you are in the world, no matter what language you speak, you can assemble that piece of furniture. Because you're using a universal language. Stick men putting stuff together. In the same way, we use a universal language, a data serialization language, to translate variables and data in our programs to another program so they can easily understand it and put it in their own stuff. We looked at 3 of the main players, YAML, JSON, XML. They all have their differences and they're all used somewhere, but we're really going to hone in on JSON, JavaScript Object Notation, here in the next nugget. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.